All right, this panel we got three folks up here. The panel will examine the stress and strain that caregivers face and what are some steps they can take to ensure their own health while caring for others. So a lot of times we have relatives that need care, and it's tough, it's challenging. How do you do that? What's the best way to handle that? That's what this session is about. We've got three panelists up here. Chanel Jackson's with Families Helping Families. We'll talk with her. We'll also talk with Jennifer Kimball with the Alzheimer's Association. And we've also got Dr. Antoine Butler here. He's with Dream Big Counseling and Training. So these are our three panelists. And I have some questions for them. I'm going to ask them. They'll answer. And then at the end, we'll give you all in the crowd there a chance to ask them some questions if you have any specific questions. So we're going to start off first with Chanel and talk a little bit. Good to have you here. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Let's talk a little bit about how important it is, the family dynamic. How important is the family dynamic when you're caring for a sick or aging loved one? It can be very challenging.
Yes, it can. I think when you're caring for a sick or sick loved one, or in my case, a loved one with a disability, it's important that you have a supportive family. It's important that the whole family gets together and they connect to make sure that that loved one is taken care of. I think it's also important that the family understands the disability or understand what that illness is that person is facing, because the better that you have an understanding, then you will know how to address the situation. And some things that may occur, you may not take those things personal because it's a part of their illness, it's a part of their disability. Whereas it may be days where they may not want to be bothered because they're not feeling well, but because that family has that knowledge and they have that education, then they won't take that personal. They know that it's just because of what that person is going through. So as a family, I think you should definitely just learn about that disability, learn about that illness, do your research, and then come together as a family to develop strategies on how you can better support the loved one, and just understand that it's not them. It may be that illness or disability that's causing them to act that way.
All right, thank you, Chanel. Jennifer's with the Alzheimer's Association. Jennifer, let's talk a little bit about preparing to care for someone who has Alzheimer's, and explain to folks exactly what Alzheimer's is. I mean, a lot of people may know, but it affects the mind and memory. It's a very serious disease, and it can completely change a person's life.
Yeah, one of the things, just kind of to take off from what Chanel said, you can't take it personally. I have witnessed in my years so many times that even professional caregivers will get very frustrated with someone with Alzheimer's or any other type of dementia and say, you know what you're doing. This is a disease, and although it's not an open cut on an arm that you can see, this is a disease of the brain, and you do have to prepare yourself for what it is that you can't see going on. The best way to prepare yourself as I like to say care partner. A caregiver is not a dirty word, but if you're a care partner, you are partnering with someone to achieve some certain goals, and you don't do everything for them. You are a partner in helping them. A caregiver is what I assume you have for your 6-month-old when you need a babysitter to go on a date. But a care partner is someone who is helping someone still be able to complete their activities of daily living, like dressing and eating and bathing. You're just there to give them the support they need so they can accomplish those things. And that frustration that you're going to need to anticipate is part of the disease process. So educating yourself on how you can best be a face-to-face direct care provider for that loved one is the best thing that you can do, whether it's preparing the environment or just the tools that you need to engage with them on a successful basis, so that you're not finding yourself banging your head against the wall and feeling like you're getting nowhere.
Thank you, Jennifer. Now we'll bring in Dr. Antoine Butler. He's with Dream Big Counseling, Consulting, and Training. Dr. Butler, in the course of your work, have you ever had a caregiver who fell ill while caring for a sick family member, and how does someone work through that challenging scenario?
Yeah, absolutely, and I think I'm going to borrow Jennifer's definition. I'm going to delete caregiver. But yeah, absolutely. Whenever we care for anybody in our life, it takes resources to do that. not just only physical resources, but it takes emotional resources. And we give our lives and our time and our efforts to people that we love so that they can have a better quality of life. But the truth of the matter is, when we do that, we're pouring from a cup, all right? And so as we're pouring from that cup, if we continue to pour from a cup that's empty, we can experience things like compassion fatigue or burnout, trying to give someone something that we don't have. And so that can play an integral part on our own mental health, with some of the signs and symptoms that we normally see in that situation. It can be agitation, frustration, irritation, and if that goes too far, people can start experiencing overwhelming stress and depression and anxiety from having to give out those emotional and physical resources. So absolutely, we always encourage people to take care of themselves, to have your own self-care plan as you're caring for others. So absolutely.
All right, thanks, Dr. Butler. All right, we'll go back to Chanel. Chanel, what resources are there for families who must care for sick members of their family? I know a lot of people, they may feel like they're by themselves because they don't have any help, but there are a lot of resources out there. Can you fill us in on where they would go for that?
Oh yeah, there are definitely a lot of resources, and I think one resource that we use every day and we have at the palm of our hands is Facebook. I mean, there are a lot of groups that you can just Google for Facebook. For instance, I know there are a lot of autism groups. There are a lot of Alzheimer's groups. There are a lot of mental health groups. So join some of these groups that you see on on Facebook. Also, there are like virtual groups for mental health, so you can get on there and learn find out some of those mental health groups. Also, look into your community, because usually every organization has some type of support group or some type of support component within their organization. So I definitely would suggest that whatever organization is in your area, then you can definitely look those up. I'm with Families Helping Families, real resource organization. So we have support groups as well. For instance, if you have a child with a disability, we have a parent support group that meets once a month. You have NAMI for mental health. They're here. And so they have virtual and in-person support groups. So it's just all about just, getting on the internet, talking to people, looking up some of these local resources and finding out what type of support groups that they have. And then again, like I said, if you're unsure, give us a call. Families Helping Families, we're a one-stop shop. We can find that resource for you, and then make sure that you get the support that you need for your loved one in order to take care of yourself as well.
All right, thanks, Chanel. Back to Jennifer. Jennifer, what's the difference, if you could explain to folks out there, the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia? Because there is a difference.
Well, to put it pretty simply, dementia as a word is really more of a description. There are many types of dementia. Dementia is kind of the umbrella, and all these different types of dementia fall under it. Alzheimer's is the most common type of dementia. This is what we see most of the time. That doesn't mean you can't be diagnosed with two types of dementia even. We call that a mixed dementia. But Alzheimer's is definitely the most common type that we see. Alzheimer's is, when I compare it to some of the other types of dementia, I almost have to say that Alzheimer's can look like a cakewalk compared to Lewy body dementia or other types. And let me tell you that Alzheimer's is not a cakewalk. But if you have the right tools, if you kind of know what to expect, if you get the education, it can be a journey, a very special time with your loved one, and really an honor to care for your loved one and to help them every day to accomplish and succeed at those activities of daily living and those special events and continue enjoying life. But you have to have the knowledge. I always tell people that with Alzheimer's especially, it's very scary. The unknown is scary. If you have ever had a child or a grandchild that wanted to watch the same movie over and over, you might be an adult and be that way. Or if they want to read the same book over and over. This is pretty common, but why do you think that happens? I had a child that wanted to read the same book, and she could quote and she could recite every line while I read it. But the reason behind that is because they know what's going to happen. There is control in knowing what's going to happen. If you have a loved one with Alzheimer's, you want to know what to expect next. and it takes a lot of the fear out of it. There is something that I highly recommend anybody with a loved one with Alzheimer's to obtain, whether it be online, however you get it. It's called the Global Deterioration Scale, or the GDS. If you have never seen the Global Deterioration Scale, it's an outline that takes you through every stage of Alzheimer's, and it tells you what to expect next. Take the fear out of being that care partner and get yourself that. It's free, doesn't cost anything. That's the first step in taking care of somebody with Alzheimer's. But understand that if you can get a diagnosis, like I said, dementia is an umbrella term. If you can confirm what type of dementia it is, it's going to help you in the process of educating yourself. And Alzheimer's, yes, is the most common one.
Thank you, Jennifer. Dr. Butler, let's go back to you. How do you stay strong as a caregiver of a terminally ill family member? Because, sometimes there's that respect factor, too, that gets lost in the shuffle when you're trying to take care of a family member. It's a little different than it would be if it's just someone from the medical field, like a nurse or whatever, that they don't really know. A family member, sometimes there's, there can be a respect factor issue with that, and it can be challenging. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I'm probably a little bit more uncomfortable with the term stay strong. I think we tell people that sometimes, and they really need help, they really need support. And sometimes that presupposes that individuals shouldn't reach out, that they should have to do things by themselves, that they should sacrifice their own personal and self-care for the care of others. And so I don't know if it's necessarily about being strong, but if we are to use that term, I think it's being strong enough to admit that it takes more than just you usually to support someone in your life, that it is necessary that you create a partnership, a tribe, a network of individuals that not only help you support your loved one, but also support you as well. And so I think the strength is acknowledging that you are, a dispensable resource. You don't have to do everything alone. You need someone holding your hand, because if we don't do that, people can give into all types of feelings of shame and embarrassment and guilt, especially when there's role confusion or role reversal, and thinking that we have to take on a Superman syndrome. But we are all interdependent by nature. So that just simply means your independence is good. It's only as good as it's connected to another human being's life. So we all need each other. And so this is a journey, especially if someone is terminally ill. You're dealing with all types of grief and mixed emotions and strong feelings. You need someone to walk alongside you in that journey. And being strong is just wisdom enough to know that you shouldn't be doing it alone, and that the strength comes from knowing that you need help. And so there's nothing wrong with that.
Great info. Thank you so much. All right, let's go back to Chanel. Chanel, what are some tips you could recommend for families that find themselves in a position of, caring for a sick loved one? Any helpful tips?
I think I'm going to piggyback off of what Dr. Butler said, is that you're not alone. And I know all of us have ended this conversation when someone tells you, let me know what you need. And we always say, okay, well, what I encourage you to do is make a let me know what you need list. So when you're on those phone calls and someone says, let me know what you need, you could refer back to that list and say, I need you to wash clothes. I need you to come and sit with them for 2 hours so I can take a nap. I need this, I need that. So don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to take naps. Don't be afraid to take a break. Because we're all human and we all need breaks. And that's one way that you can recharge yourself to make sure that you are better for the person that you're caring for. Also, what Dr. Butler said earlier, you can't pour for an empty cup. So if you're empty, then how do you expect to take care of them? You keep your energy positive, because when you're feeling bad, when you're negative, you're going to put that back on them. And it's going to make the situation harder. It's going to make them harder. It's going to make just everything hard. So make sure that you stay positive. Make sure that you ask for help. Make sure you create that let me know what you need list. And just make sure that you are there, present in the moment. If you are not present in the moment for yourself, then you can't be present in the moment for them. And when rest is needed, don't be afraid to take that rest.
Great advice. All right, Jennifer, is there anything that you can do to help promote somebody to eat or drink? Because a lot of times, if you're you're helping someone out, you're with a family member, they're in bad health. Depending on their situation, they may not want to eat or drink, but they need to stay alive. What can you do to help promote that?
Well, one thing that you have to keep in mind, depending on the chronic illness, someone may not be eating or drinking because their body is telling them not to, or they may not need it. So we do have to keep that in mind. One of the things also that is very cultural to us here in the U.S. is everything that we do is tied to food. If we are in a church social, we bring casseroles. If we have an event, if we have a party, there's food. Everything is tied to food in our society. And one of the things that we feel bad about is when somebody doesn't accept our food, and we take it kind of personally. So I do like to add that somebody who may be far along in a chronic illness or in the dying process, they're not wanting to eat, and that's a natural thing. On the flip side of that, for someone who has Alzheimer's and can't remember that they haven't eaten, or maybe their appetite, their taste buds have changed, there are little tricks that you can kind of put into place. For instance, for someone who has all of a sudden decided that they like sweets, and that's what they want to eat, and they're not really interested in vegetables and all, take a dessert bowl, something that looks like dessert, and place whatever food you're giving them in that bowl. Maybe it needs some sugar on it. You'd be surprised how many people will eat broccoli with sugar on it, but they won't eat broccoli. Accept what it is that they're willing to eat. If they are having difficulty using utensils, more finger foods. If they're not drinking, there are many ways that you can create some stations at different places in the home and get them to drink different various drinks around the home, and create little stations for them, a special cup that they like that a grandchild gave them. There's also something that was really specifically designed for those with dementia that are called jelly drops. And you can actually look those up online if it's not something that you want to purchase. It kind of looks like and mimics candy, but it's fluid. So it's kind of a sneaky way to get hydration into your loved one who just really is resistant to drinking. But you can actually make those at home. So you can Google it. They're called jelly drops. And there are recipes that you can do that yourself at home. I don't know how much it is to buy them, but there are some ways like that to kind of skirt around those hydration issues that we deal with, and especially with somebody with Alzheimer's.
Wow, that's great tips. Thanks so much. All right, Dr. Butler, what can family and friends do to support the direct person that's taking care of the sick, family member? Are there things they can help bring, like supplies, some food if they need that, drinks, anything specifically that you can bring to help the person that's taking care of the sick loved one?
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback off of Chanel's idea. I love that. What do you need list? I think the caregiver is going to be the expert on what that individual may need, and then just being readily available to meet that need. I've always been told the best ability is availability, but I think if we were to get into the weeds a little bit, we can specify specifically how people can help. People have different types of ways you can help. As we are talking about types of supports, there is about 3 of them if I was to give them a category. So one is an emotional help. You just kind of like a shoulder to cry on. Maybe you that person. You could be an appraisal support. That would be someone that we would call for advice. Or you can be an instrumental support. Like that's the person who's actually going to bring items. Whatever the case may be, try to fit yourself into one of those categories, and then really depend on the caregiver to find out what that person needs.
All right, we've got one question more for each one, and then we'll open it up to you guys for questions. All right, Chanel, can you speak to the qualifications of a so-called caregiver or someone who's taking care of their loved one who may be sick? What are good qualifications for this person?
I don't think there's really just love and compassion. I'm not going to say that you have to be trained or you have to be certified in any area. I think we're all nurturing to a certain degree. And so for mothers, we are definitely like some of the most nurturing creatures on earth. No offense to the fathers, I'm sorry. But I just like, as for mothers, I think that you definitely have to have a love and compassion and just the need or the want to help. Like, we don't want to see our loved ones suffering. We don't want to see our loved ones going through pain. We don't want to see our loved ones, in a condition in which we're not used to seeing them in. So when you see someone that you care about, or when you see someone that cared for you for so many years in a state in which they can't care for yourself, I think it automatically kicks in like, you cared for me, so it's my time to care for you. So I don't really think it's any educational qualifications. It's just you as a nurturing person, as a loving person, as a compassionate person, and wanting to be there for your loved one to provide that support that they provided for you for so many years. And even if it's not a family member, I just know for me, speaking from personal experience, even with its friends, I want to care for people that I don't know just because it's a story, and I would want someone to be there for me. That's the way I look at it. It's like, if I was in that situation, I would want someone to be there for me. And because I would want someone to be there for me, then I try to make sure that I show up and I'm present for other people.
There's that unconditional love, right?
That unconditional love, exactly.
It's hard to find, but when you find it, you got it. All right, Jennifer, is there something that folks can do to help keep a loved one from wandering out of the home and leaving? Because with Alzheimer's and dementia, that can be a real issue, is keeping them where they need to be and not having them wander off. What can you do to help that?
It's certainly a problem, but there are many things you can do now with technology. Obviously, you have so many devices that have GPS in them, and if your loved one is open to wearing some of those things and probably not aware of what all that entails, it's not just a watch or whatever, that's an easy answer right there if they do get out. But on the front line, when you're in the home and you're trying to prevent someone from either going into rooms they're not, supposed to be in, or you want to promote them to go in certain places, you can do some very simple things to change your environment. If you're in your home and you look at the front door, and that front door is where they want to go out of, look at the wall color, look at the door color. Does it stand out? Probably. I know that it's a big deal to many people, but you can paint that door and that wall all the same color to keep them from noticing the door. Anything to make it less noticeable, it's not going to attract them. One of the things that we neglect to think about when people have dementia, their vision changes. When someone has Alzheimer's, they have a disconnect between the brain and all the senses, and they have some vision changes that are inevitable. We don't know about them, and they can't tell us about them. And so, for instance, one of the things that people complain about many times as dementia progresses, my loved one keeps urinating in the trash can that's right next to the toilet. Why do I have this problem? Well, what color is the toilet? What color is the floor? What color is everything in the bathroom? More than likely, it's white. So when you're visually looking down, everything's the same color, but the trash can next to it is black or it's red. And so they see that, they visualize that, and they're doing the best they can for what they think with that disconnect that's been created in their brain and with their vision problems. So some of the simple things that you can do, you can put signs up, you can put cues to where maybe where they need to go or where they shouldn't. If there's a stop sign on a door, they may recognize that if it's in bold colors. That works very simply for some people. And for others, you might have to go to that extreme of painting walls and doors the same color so that they'll avoid that going in there. If there's somewhere, like the bathroom, that you want them to go, paint that door red or something that pops out to them, because keep in mind that their vision is not what yours is, and they cannot tell you that. So that's some of the basics. But I would also probably invest in some door locks and maybe some inexpensive alarms if you don't have any type of home alarm. some of those very inexpensive alarms. I think we were having a conversation earlier about one that many years ago I put on a door so that we would know if a child went into the backyard for the pool. But some of those that have the magnetic pull, and if the door opens, it screams really loud. So you would hear your person. You can buy them, and they're really cheap, but they work great. They will definitely wake you up. So that's probably some basics that I would look at from keeping someone from wandering. You might have to take those keys if it's a car issue, or take the battery out if it's a matter of not just wandering off but driving off. I highly recommend something like that if they're going to be a danger driving as well.
Dr. Butler, one question for you. When you look at taking care of people who may be terminally ill or very sick, do you see a difference in people you've talked to when they're caring for a loved one, a relative versus a non-relative? I mean, is there a difference there in how you approach that?
I've seen, I don't know if it's a significant enough difference to say. I've seen both scenarios, I think. There is a humanity about us that once we start caring for people, we derive a connection for them. And then we automatically start to see the compassion and the empathy surface from that relationship, whether it's a family member, whether it's a formal type of relationship. So I think all of those instincts kick in. I think there is some variations. It's different when you're caring for your mother and maybe a nurse is caring for your mother. But I think all of those instincts kick in. I think the process is the same. I think care for every person is individualized. You asked a question earlier about if there was a certain education level needed, and I think that depends on the situation, because maybe I bring my compassion and empathy, but maybe that's not enough. Maybe I have to learn about medications or locking doors and things like that. So I think at the end of the day, it's the same basic dynamic of human relationships and loving and caring for people. Yeah.
Great stuff. All right, we're done with our question and answer segment with our three healthcare professionals. Do you in the crowd, any of you have any questions you'd like to ask them? Yeah.
Good evening. I am a caregiver of a 83-year-old, and she has dementia, and she's bedridden. And I can understand what you said about having compassion, because some days I do get frustrated, and I have to realize that she's sick, and I have to give my best care to her. And sometimes it get hard, I get stressed out, I work Monday through Thursday with her, but I enjoy what I do because I am a giver and I'm a caregiver, a care provider. And another question I wanted to ask, yes.
Put that microphone a little closer there so we can hear.
Is it true that if a person with dementia, you give them too many sweets, would that affect their dementia or their brain?
Those sweets are not going to affect the dementia.
Okay.
They may affect behavior, just like they would in anybody that's had too much sugar. But sometimes you'll find with changes in taste a lot, and I'm not really sure why, but there is the tendency for people with dementia, they tend to want sweets when maybe they didn't before. Mm-hmm. And so that's why some of those tricks about putting sugar on things, even if it's sweet and low, those things seem to work pretty effectively. And then serving more fruits and things like that are sweet, that may help. It's not going to affect the dementia. It will possibly affect behaviors if it's just something that's straight sugar, because again, like anybody that gets too much sugar, their behaviors may change.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, thanks so much. All right, thank you so much for coming today. I want to thank you all for being here for this session on caregivers and helping out your loved ones or anyone that needs help. I want to thank our three panelists as well. They did a great job.